林太就係資深傳媒人區家麟咧，即刻今朝早就因為呢個發表串謀發表煽動刊物被捕。林太你都即係可能曾經同佢出席過一啲嘅節目咁樣啦，你點樣評論呢個拘捕嘅行動？好多傳媒人覺得係即係對新聞自由構成咗威脅，同埋構成寒蟬效應，你點樣睇？
我回答咗第三個問題啊，然後請兩位同事咧去解答你頭嗰兩個問題。第一咧就係作為行政長官或者作為任何嘅非執法嘅官員咧，都唔應該評論一啲執法嘅個案啊。咁我亦都唔會評論，但係我只係每一次問到呢啲個案咧，我都只係講返個制度同埋個法律啊。香港係一個法治嘅社會，國安法嘅頒布當然要係貫徹落實嚟到保障國家安全同埋香港嘅安全。咁所以有法必依，執法必嚴，違法必究係一向我哋法治社會重視嘅價值。咁所以咧，我哋亦都係會係循住呢啲重要嘅價值咧嚟到去辦事。新聞自由、言論自由咧係受到基本法保障。喺基本法第17條咧係對於各類嘅個人享有嘅自由咧係作出呢個保障。而喺國安法裏邊嘅第4條咧，亦都特別係講保障國家安全嘅同時咧，都要維護呢啲受到基本法保障嘅個人自由。呢個係我嘅回應。
想跟進翻就係之前都好多調查就顯示家長學生都覺得即係唔想一下子就恢復面授課堂啦。喺而家呢個安排底下，佢哋有冇一個選擇，即係可以繼續喺屋企嗰度上網課嘅咧？
至於喺即係正話你提到，可能有啲家長或者有啲學生，佢即係對究竟係咪應該喺復活節假之後就恢復一個面授課堂？當然，我哋香港不嬲喺呢啲事上邊，尤其是喺呢啲事上邊，都有好多人有唔同嘅睇法。政府做呢個決定嘅時候，係平衡咗個學生嘅整體需要，同埋社會而家上邊個疫情嘅發展，同埋喺學校裏邊進行教學嘅風險，作出一個決定。正如行政長官或者衛生署署長都講，即係復課唔會係一個零風險嘅，即係喺疫情嘅角度去睇，唔會係一個完全零風險嘅一個決定。咁但係我哋考慮到嗰個整體學生嘅需要，成個社會嗰個進展嘅時候，我哋係有必要咧，係要係喺復活節假之後咧就恢復翻個面授課堂。咁你亦都會睇到，其實我哋加強咗好多措施，包括咗淨係講我哋會有每一日嘅做一個 RAT 啦，我哋亦都加強咗嗰個通風嘅設備啦，等等，我哋都會加強一啲防疫抗疫嘅措施。咁呢啲係會令到嗰個學校嘅環境更加安全。至於你講到話真係有家長決定唔返學，咁我第一樣要講嘅就係我哋喺全面恢復面授之後咧。嗰個在家學習咧，就學校就唔需要為學生去提供㗎啦，因為已經係一個面授課堂。咁而家長都選擇話佢唔返學，我哋就有一個既定嘅機制啦。因為大家都知道喺15歲以下嘅學生，即係6歲至15歲嘅學生，其實係有一個法例嘅要求佢要返學。咁但係呢啲我哋已經有既定嘅機制。如果個家長因為各種唔同嘅原因選擇個學生唔能夠返學嘅話咧，我哋會跟翻而家嘅機制去跟進。
And the second question is, the government issued a statement yesterday saying that the CE may direct the holder of another public office to exercise the power delegated to the CS in granting exemptions from compulsory quarantine or social distancing rules. So in the absence of an acting CS, who can John Lee's campaign office reach out to if they wanted to be exempted from social distancing rules regarding his election campaign? And do you mind clarifying the statement? And is there any latest updates on the successor of John Lee? Thank you.
The second set of questions concerning the vacancy of this position of the Chief Secretary for Administration. At this point in time, I have nothing to add to what I have already said in public. Which means that at this point in time, the position of the CES, the Chief Secretary for Administration, remains vacant. But as I have said on several occasions since the resignation and departure of John Lee, all the work to be done by the Chief Secretary for Administration will continue and has been continuing in the last week or so, because one is we could ask the relevant bureau secretaries to do the work and then to escalate to my personal attention. Because very often the Chief Secretary of Administration is a higher level to the Bureau Secretary, but ultimately responsible to the Chief Executive. For example, in processing submissions to the Executive Council, then the ultimate authority rests with the Chairman of the Executive Council, which is the Chief Executive. But where the power to be exercised by the Chief Secretary for Administration is a statutory power, is laid down in the ordinance, then we have a means to overcome it. Because in the laws of Hong Kong, there is Cap 1, I think it's the Interpretation and General Clauses Ordinance, which gives a lot of power to the Chief Executive. One of the powers is if a particular public office is vacant, in other words, no person has been appointed to fill that public office, but the laws of Hong Kong do give that public office certain powers to exercise. Then under special conditions, that is when the post is vacant, then the Chief Executive could, by order, it is a legal instrument, I have to sign an order to direct another public officer to discharge those functions. And that's why we need to clarify this position via a press release yesterday, because apparently there was a saying that because the post of CS was not filled, and even the Chief Executive could not do anything about it. So there are certain statutory functions that could not be discharged. That is not the case. The CE will be able to rectify or resolve that sort of situation by invoking Cap 1 to appoint by order another public officer to discharge that function. So we have already done it once by order to direct another public officer, another principal official, to grant exemptions under Cap 599C to facilitate the arrival of mainland experts last week without subject them to quarantine. Because they came to help us. What's the point of putting them in 7-day or 14-day quarantine? So another public officer has been directed via an order to exercise that power of exemption. And we will, depending on the situations and the circumstances, continue to direct principal officials by order. But it will vary from one to another, and there are other occasions that we need to resolve. So if ultimately, as we said in a press release, we will facilitate the conduct of elections of the 6th-term Chief Executive in accordance with the law. So if any candidate's campaign office wishes to seek any exemptions which are in the public interest, because we want this election to be smooth, efficient, lawful, then they can approach the Hong Kong SAR government. The easy way is to approach the CE's office or the director of the Chief Executive's office and need not try to find out which principal official has been given the power by the Chief Executive. Thank you.